How's it going, YouTube? It's Michael here, and today I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about Telltale Games. For those of you who don't know, Telltale Games is the publisher who independently distributes their games. They do many licensed titles such as The Walking Dead, Batman, The Wolf Among Us, different sort of titles like that. Now, one thing I just wanted to get out there right now is that I enjoy all Telltale games, and I enjoy the storytelling aspect of the games. For those of you who don't know, I'm a huge fan of storytelling games, story-driven games, especially ones that have the option for you to choose what happens to each character, and the outcome of the story is affected by all your decisions. That's why I enjoyed the game that just recently came out, Until Dawn. Now, I just wanted to speak with you guys because I played recently the Walking Dead game that they just came out with called Michonne. And it's a spin-off of the Robert Kirkman comic books, which their original game that made them very successful before was based off of. Now, they haven't came out with a Walking Dead Telltale series in about 2 years now, and that is one of the issues I'm going to get to, but not right away. The issue I have right now with them is that they kind of already have this format where your decisions are kind of an illusion on the story, which at the beginning of each game they tell you that your story adapts to the way you choose, and what you choose does affect the overall outcome of the story. Now, for those of you who have played a lot of Telltale games, we all know that that's simply not true. We all know that it is a pretty linear path, and your decisions may have an effect on who might die at certain points in the game, but it all kind of derives into the very end of the game, and it all pretty much leads to the exact same path. Telltale already has this formula, and it seems like they're getting a little too cozy with it. And I recently also just played their Game of Thrones story as well. And for me, that was probably the most mediocre title they have released yet. Honestly, I didn't care much about the house at all, House Forrester. I didn't care much about what happened to any of the storylines, which is exactly what you don't want to happen when you're playing a Game of Thrones game. Which is really unfortunate because Game of Thrones is a great series, and it deserves to get a good rep as far as video games go, and there's so much endless potential, but it seems like lately what Telltale's been doing is signing on with these big companies and being forced to push something out the door that necessarily isn't complete or very well thought out. And that's the case with Game of Thrones. It was released within an 8-month period, and it was just not very well done as far as Telltale standards, which all it is a point-and-click story-based game, and it shouldn't take that much development time. But from what I understand, Telltale is a pretty small studio still, even though it has seen some widely successful games, including The Walking Dead, which springboarded it to its success. The thing that made The Walking Dead Season 1 so special was that it got you attached to its characters. And see, that's just the thing that I think Telltale's gotten a little too cozy with, is that they can go ahead and give us a story that necessarily isn't fully complete and isn't necessarily done, I guess, and not very well thought out, and they just think we'll eat it up, which I don't want us the gamers to fall for this trick, because we're starting to see it a lot. And Telltale now, they haven't really gone back to their Walking Dead titles at all, and they have this Walking Dead Michonne 3-episode miniseries that's coming out, which I'll probably review here shortly, because episode 2 is coming out pretty soon, if I am remembering correct. I just wanted to go ahead and get this out there, though, that we should not continue to support incomplete games, even if it is Telltale. Telltale is great for the fact that they only release their games at $25, and you get still about 9 hours of storytelling, and pretty solid most of the time, up until I would say the Game of Thrones Telltale, because I would honestly go as far as to say I've played the first episode of the Minecraft. I own the season pass, but I don't own Minecraft. I haven't completed the Minecraft story mode, and for me, it just wasn't very good at drawing me in as any of the other Telltale games. I can at least give Game of Thrones credit that they actually drew me in with the first episode, because it was a pretty solid first episode in regards to the Game of Thrones Telltale game. But we just kind of saw it degrade over time, and they kind of just shoehorned cameos of different characters from Game of Thrones in there. However, I feel like if if Telltale does go back and take their time with their games, for those of you who are diehard Telltale fans, you'll remember that whenever Walking Dead Season 1 came out, we would wait about 3, sometimes even 4 or 5 months for an episode. Granted, on Season 2 they were also working on The Wolf Among Us at the exact same time, so you would get The Wolf Among Us at the same time as Season 2. For me, that was probably the glory era of Telltale Games. Now, what we see now is, for me, it feels like they're kind of just rushing things out the door without giving them the proper treatment that the games before, like Wolf Among Us and Walking Dead Seasons 1 and 2, that were both beautiful and probably the gems that we have now compared to what we are getting now. And basically, we just shouldn't lose sight of that, and we should always be vigilant as far as demanding quality of the games. Now, I'm excited to see where they're going to go with this Batman Telltale story. However, I hope that it's just not another licensed game that's just rushed out the door by them. I want them to go back to their original roots, and maybe even we'll see a Season 3 of The Walking Dead soon. Because for me, it's also kind of a slap in the face whenever they don't release a Clementine story after all of the success that The Walking Dead Seasons 1 and 2 had. They have already released Minecraft story mode, Game of Thrones story mode, and now they're releasing Batman. So it's just kind of ridiculous that they're venturing off so far off the beaten path of what made them successful in the first place. But that's a separate rant for a separate time. And I just wanted to go ahead and get this out there. Some of my problems I had with Telltale, and I want them to have some sort of consistency when they tell their stories. And if you guys like this rant, can you go ahead and click subscribe and like and leave a comment on what you thought. And I'll see you guys in the next one.